about the role of emerging technologies in an ever-changing digital marketing space. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to cut the chase and not introduce the topic because I feel the moderator is going to do a brilliant job with that, it is my honor to call upon somebody who always has a new trick under his sleeve. He would either come as a clone or has his own virtual avatar. I've seen it all, I've witnessed it all. He brings a new flavor every single time on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of mobile and emerging tech lead WPP India, GroupM India, Niraj Ruparel. Let's give him a big, big round of applause. Thank you, Niraj, for joining us. Well, with that, if I may have the CMO of Raymond Consumer Care, Pooja Sahgal. Do we have Pooja in the room right now? Actually, yes, she's right there. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, a big, big round of applause. Thank you, Pooja. The Chief Marketing Officer, Hershey's, Ankit Desai. Thank you, Ankit, for joining us. The Director Marketing, Category Loyalty and Digital, Tata Starbucks, the very vibrant Deepa, Krishnan. The founder and CEO, Question What's Real, Suraj, Aiar. Well, Niraj will truly question you on what's being real out here. He creates it for you. Head Marketing, Corporate Communication and CSR, ICICI Lombard, Sheena, Kapoor. Thank you, Sheena. And the Head Brand Building, UltraTech Cement, Kanupriya, Didwania. Well, I'm excited to see, Niraj, how you've curated this entire conversation ahead. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. We keep doing this, so it's so usual. All right, so thank you so much. This is the last session. I think you were planning with Indian television. We thought the last session, and it's going to be traffic, so people are going to run away. But we still have like a really decent crowd, so thank you so much for making time. But just quick one, I've been doing this emerging tech, and now we call it creative tech, for more than a decade now. And people keep asking me, like, what really motivates you to keep deep diving into blue oceans, and how do you actually go about convincing your client, because there's so much risk out there. So first thing there is, and I would urge all my colleagues and everyone, is you have to constantly create prototypes, and go back to them and say that this is not far away from you. This is me, this is my clone, and that's what Bhavna was saying, that I ended up creating so much content in the last 2 years, especially in the COVID phase, that I got awarded for the most admired digital content creator yesterday by World Mobile Congress, right? So, I mean, I even didn't know. I was actually constantly creating content, because I thought maybe when I create content and go back to Kanupriya, Pooja, my friend Ankit, and all of you all, there'll be like a very strong resonance in terms of, yeah, this is closer to us, this is doable, it's my clone talking to them. And more so, what I started doing is I started creating clones of our leadership as well. So 2.5 years back, I created my first clone ever, which took me about 10 hours of original content, right? So I had to actually sit and read from the teleprompter in front of me for 10 hours and shoot with a white screen. That allowed me to create my clone. And that clone then went on WhatsApp to all my friends and my leadership, saying that, randomly talking to them. And then I asked them, okay, the guy who was talking to you wasn't me. It was actually my clone. And that excited a lot of people. And we ended up creating our first celeb clone with Hrithik Roshan. And then we did our most popular campaign, right? Which had creativity at heart. So kudos to Ogilvy for bringing in that campaign. Ogilvy and Wavemaker together delivered this campaign which won us global glory. Titanium Lions ever, India has ever won, right? So Shah Rukh Khan, not just a Cadbury ad, you guys are all aware, right? And recently, what I believe is this power of this platform is to add language models to it. So my clone is being around. This is the 7th edition of my clone. But now watch my clone speaking in various languages, right? So I can personally speak English, Hindi, and Gujarati fluently. But you will now see me speaking in various other languages, which is what I'm really bullish about when it comes to synthetic AI, which is like addition of language models. So let's play the AV, please.
एआई मार्केटिंग और विज्ञापन की दुनिया में आपका स्वागत है, जहां तकनीक उद्योग के भविष्य को आकार दे रही है। हाल के वर्षों में एआई ने व्यवसायों के ग्राहकों तक पहुंचणे और उनके साथ जुड़ने के तरीके में क्रांती ला दी है। एआई विपणन आणि जाहिरातींच्या जगात आपले स्वागत आहे, जिथे तंत्रज्ञान उद्योगाचे भविष्य घडवत आहे। अलीकडच्या वर्षांत एआय व्यवसाय त्यांच्या ग्राहकांपर्यंत पोहोचण्याच्या आणि त्यांच्याशी संलग्न होण्याच्या पद्धतीत क्रांती സാങ്കേതികവിദ്യ വ്യവസായത്തിന്റെ ഭാവി രൂപപ്പെടുത്തുന്ന എഐ മാർക്കറ്റിംഗിന്റെയും പരസ്യത്തിന്റെയും ലോകത്തേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. സമീപ വർഷങ്ങളിൽ ബിസിനസ്സുകൾ അവരുടെ ഉപഭോക്താക്കളുമായി എത്തിച്ചേരുകയും അവരുമായി ഇടപഴകുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ এআই বিপ্লব সৃষ্টিച്ചു। এআই বিপণন এবং বিজ্ঞাপনের জগতে স্বাগতম, যেখানে প্রযুক্তি শিল্পের ভবিষ্যৎ গঠন করছে। সাম্প্রতিক বছরগুলিতে এআই ব্যবসাগুলি তাদের গ্রাহকদের কাছে পৌঁছানোর এবং তাদের সাথে জড়িত হওয়ার পদ্ধতিতে বিপ্লব করেছে।
So I don't know how many of you understand some of these languages, but imagine if you were to go really micro in India, and like all these top brands here, they've got really popular celebrities. Imagine Amitabh Bachchan interacting in Karnataka in Kannada. You know, this is me with 7th attempt. Not that accurate. This can go further accurate in times to come, right? So multiple language models are already getting added. We are talking about generative AI now. So if you see our most trending campaign of AI video regeneration, we did it for Aegis Federal, where we recreated the young Sachin Tendulkar. If you followed that, right? The 16-year-old Sachin Tendulkar was being recreated using AI. So there are tons of innovations which is happening in this space. So we thought now across forums, wherever I go and I do the talking, what I personally feel is there's record number of tech interventions which are happening in today's times, right? What we are trying to do is we are trying to devise a solution for every audience type, wherever they are and whatever kind of device they own. So if we talk about India, we are talking about 1 billion active mobile connections in India, and we still say India has got record number of feature phones, right? Close to 350 million odd feature phones. There are emerging tech interventions which apply to feature phones, also to smartphones, also to tablets, and bunch of other platforms which are evolving over the years, right? So to kickstart this panel, and the way I have curated it is, all my friends, and obviously Suraj does a lot of creation for me across metaverse and Web3 environments. And we recently concluded last year a Nestle verse where we did an IPL fan meet. So the IPL players and top 60 lucky fans were inside the metaverse jamming and stuff like that, right? So now these experiences are also getting completely transformed. 2022, we saw metaverse experiences which was more riding on the metaverse wave, and we created a lot of meaningful experimentation, right? From moon dating on Mondelez to the first wedding ever on the metaverse to doing Holi in the metaverse and stuff like that, right? This year, and inspired by my boss, Andy Hood, he did a campaign for Bastille globally, where fans could not just enter the concert, but their avatars can actually pop in inside the concert and they can hi-fi the lead protagonist, right? So that makes it really special. Now we're talking about India with 5G computing. We will actually have the next level of meta-human pops happening on live concerts. Now imagine one of the use cases which I'm working on is this, typically when you see this IPL cricket environment, someone from Bihar calls up and says, "Agar sir, Virat ne aisa khela hota na, तो विकेट नहीं जाती, इंडिया जीत जाता, right? That's the kind of fan meet which is happening in today's times. How about me sending a complete mocap-driven portable studio to top 10 fans of IPL across India? Someone sitting in Bihar. Where's a mocap? Pops right next to Virat Kohli, and Virat Kohli is teaching him how to play. You know, a meta-human in the actual studio environment. So that's the level of computing we are going to apply in times to come. And 2023, you will see metaverse experiences which will drive scale for us. Look at the #1 concert globally, right, which keeps spoken about, Travis Scott, with 27 million people attending. And not even one person entered through a headgear. Everyone entered through mobile phones. So we'll also talk about project which Pooja is working on Kamaverse, or what Hershey's currently launched a metaverse experience. So there's tons of work which is happening on the NFT space as well. Clearly the novelty value has faded, but we are constantly looking for utility value when it comes to NFT, and we'll talk some of it, how Pooja and team have clubbed it with the conversational media and given it a twist with an NFT angle, right? And then we've got Sheena who's doing, and my conversation with her yesterday, it's a mind-blowing work on how drone is being put to action, right? As well as VR, and that too in a BFSI category. Lombard is clearly a leader there. So I would start with Kanupriya first, and we would start from the bottom of the pyramid, which is those feature phone users, and what kind of tech intervention are we building for those audiences out there on voice AI as a core practice. So Kanupriya, would love to hear from you on Baat Ghar Ki, which is our star product, which is one Smarties Axe, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, you will rarely see a cement category brand making all the way, creating global headlines. So it's kudos to the content. Also the way they have strategically positioned it, like Wikipedia of home care, that is what we call it. Yeah. Would love to hear.
Great. Thanks, Niraj. As usual, you blow us out with the tech we can use and make us marketers salivate for more. So I think, thanks for the introduction, but I represent a category which everybody uses but nobody really sees, and very bottom of the pyramid. So cement is ubiquitous, not really branded in a way, and used more in rural and small town India than any of us. I think if I go around the room, nobody would have built their homes. You all would have bought your homes or renovated your homes, but very few would have built their homes. Taking that cue, we went ahead and with creativity, content, reach, and scale. These were the four mantras, if I can call it that, for BGK. Baat Ghar Ki is a series which got started to teach about home building. Now, how do you teach people who are in a remote village with the only access as their feature phone? I think from a tech angle, there were three that we deployed. One is, of course, using vernacular. How do I go across 9 languages with 200 pieces of content that I have and put it out there in an audio format so that people can access it when they want to. So we did this along with, one is the serve that we did, the other one was with the Geo network, and both have really worked wonders for us for both listening to the content as well as repeat wanting it. So we had a toll-free number where people could call in and ask for more content. How do I now take it to feature phone, out of feature phone onto a handheld device which is, has some data? We are used to our postpaid plans and having unlimited data in a way. This audience has limited data. So it's important that I serve them what they want. Some use of AI and ML helped us in personalizing the content, that if somebody's watched a piece of content, what is the next likely for them, and serving that up to them. So those kind of media nudges, including, of course, the Mindshare did a stellar job of contextually targeting when they want it through, general stuff that we use with is banners. And to say that, okay, you're here, this is what you might need, and redirect. So I think some simple use, I would still keep it that since we are still, like Niraj says, bottom of the pile, but we've had to really innovate along with our partners to get to the bottom of the pile there and give them an experience which they desire. Because to our world, there is no rural and urban. There is people who have mobility and the people who don't. So I think the applications are mindless, and we can not, just mindlessly use, some of the tech which is available there. So we've had to pick and choose, and BGK has given us an opportunity to not just show creativity, but reach at scale. That's the one question that gets asked of tech, that is it going to give me reach and scale? So these are the 2-3 things that we were able to do towards content marketing.
Absolutely. I think the technology in the rural pocket, and if you were to see how device set is evolving now to smart feature phones, as they call it, we are also seeing a lot of video bots getting launched on feature phones now, which are again multilingual in nature. The classic example is Unilever's Mobile Doctor Ni, which runs in about 6 languages, runs on a base level feature phone. And that too a video output kind of a stuff, right? So it's constantly growing. And we're also seeing a trend of marketeers now deploying an omni-channel strategy, not voice only, because there are device sets which are upgrading. If I'm sending you a communication and if you have WhatsApp on your phone, I would stay regional, but I would send you richer communication through WhatsApp. And the initiator can be a regular call as well. Now, another area of work which is picking up is this entire social conversational space, right? I'm trying to get geared a bit and taking the conversation further, and Pooja is getting geared also to give that answer, is this entire space of social conversational marketing, and emojis is kind of driving the wave, right? No more, when I were to give a thumbs up to someone, I would rather give a thumbs up as a brand going as an emoji rather than a regular thumbs up. So you're already seeing a keyboard level marketing, 100 million plus users, all the regular emojis are getting converted into brand-led emojis. And there's where Pooja and team have done a phenomenal job. So let's up the ante from feature phone to slightly, young category and what you call scalable audience on low-end smartphones. If we were to see the number, 65% of those 600 million smartphones are in the population bracket of 10 to 15,000. And you dominates that category, right? And very, very high engaging kind of an audience out there. And they live on these emojis. They kind of really make it viral and share it. So any use case, I think you have a brilliant use case and an amazing brand.
Thanks Niraj. So yes, so it is not a very young category, it's a very old category, Kama Sutra. So I work on Kama Sutra condoms. And of course, what we figured out is that while sex is one of the most searched terms, it is also one of the terms you use very less, and people are not very open about it. So we wanted to basically take our brand, which is a bit old-fashioned compared to Durex, etc., and said, how do we make it really modern and relevant? So we tied up with Bobble, and basically we know that the young consumers are really flirting. They're far more free what they say to each other on the phone and through WhatsApp. So whenever any conversations came about love, sex, relationship, we made sure that a Kama Sutra emoji was interspersed within the conversation. So it was very contextual. It was not forced. It really helped them actually aid in the conversation and help build a relationship with each other. And we not only stopped at that. So of course, we reached around 7 million. We had 7 million conversations. We had great engagement. But those were the days of NFT also. So we took our most engaging stickers and we minted NFTs with it. So around 6 NFTs, and we actually sold those NFTs, much to our surprise also, and it did extremely well. And we donated that to a social cause, so which also helps in birth control. So it was a really well-rounded event and activation, which again really helped drive our brand in the context of youngsters in the very right context. So definitely, I think tech provides that big engagement and reach, and really also helps drive brand imagery. It's not an either-or. Thanks.
Absolutely. That's why we keep talking about creative and tech coming together for us to deliver fabulous, fancy sci-fi campaigns, right? It cannot be only a tech-out approach. It needs to be blended with creativity in a big way. Now, talking about Web3, I would say one of the most brilliant use cases of Web3 is loyalty. And Deepa and the Starbucks team have been doing some spell job in that space, not just in India, but I think globally, and now extending it to India. So just to set a context, Metaverse again seems to encapsulate everything, right? All the work which Ankit is doing on Hershey is all what he's launched. But it encapsulates AR, VR, MR, blockchain, NFTs, virtual worlds. It's a large subject. And when I talk about Web3, the core utility which I see is loyalty, which is what brands like Starbucks and YSL have recently mastered. So would love to hear what are your thoughts. How are you guys building a sustained program? And I think one of the few brands who are now thinking more sustained approach when it comes to Web3. And not just riding on a PR wave. Obviously, we created a lot of meaningful experimentation, but it was more tactical in nature. Nothing was more sustained. This year, we're looking at scale and sustained programs. So would love to hear this use case. There'll be a lot of learning for our audience as well.
Sure. I just want to say at this point that this is my clone. This is not the real me. The real Deepa Krishnan is sitting at home, avoiding all the Mumbai traffic. So this is just a clone. That's a disclaimer, first of all. Having said that, so, my belief is, and in India, we have a 2 million plus loyalty program, Starbucks. So we have huge first-party data that we have access to. To be, in a sense, a spoil sport in this party, I will say that your technology is meaningless if you don't have solid first-party data, okay? And what do you do with that data? Because today there's no dearth of data. The problem is, what is the analytics framework you want to use to interpret that data in a meaningful manner? So on our loyalty program, we try and get into a segment of one with analytics. So we do a very extensive recency, frequency, monetary kind of segmentation where we are able to understand consumer behavior right up to their favorite beverage, time of the day they'll come to a store, weekday, weekend, which is their favorite store, etc. And all of this data, which is then, in a sense, handed over to our store partners with the consent of the customer, because privacy is, again, a very, very important aspect. Then the barista is able to have more fruitful conversations. So let me give you an example. If I already know that you, Niraj, are a fan of Americano, I'm just making up stuff here, you look like an Americano guy, so I'm taking the liberty of saying that. If I know that you're an Americano customer, my barista kind of watches you enter the store, knows that he or she has to get the Americano ready. And that's further reinforced by swiping your card on the POS, the point of sale. And then the barista can have a more meaningful conversation with you saying, which is your new clone, which is the new language you're practicing, etc., right? So there's a point of connection. We've used this data very extensively to have conversations with the customers one-on-one, send them personalized videos on our 10th anniversary, more than 4 lakh personalized videos, talking about the journey of our customers, etc. In the US, Starbucks is pioneering Starbucks Odyssey. Maybe some of you would have heard of that, which is really an experience based on metaverse and NFT, which will only be restricted to the loyalty program members. And the NFT that will be mined will be used to get rewards on the program. In India, we have launched our first Reserve store in Mumbai in October last year. Reserve is really a high-end format. And there we've actually used augmented reality very well. The walls of the store will talk to you. And you have living murals in the store. I'd urge you to visit that. So I think to sum up, I'd say that first, the fundamentals you have to get right. Pure play technology doesn't help. So get your first party data, dissect it, get to a segment of one, and then use technology as an experience enabler for this.
Absolutely. So just to take your point on augmented reality, clearly if you were to talk about extended reality as a subject, augmented reality is the most right platform, I would say. And in India, it's firing up in all 3 categories of augmented reality, whether it's in-app AR, web AR, or your social AR. You go to places like Insta, you go to any e-com app, you'll be able to now place the furniture in real life and see, and that's how the ROI goes through the roof, right? Look at Flipkart's move of acquiring Scapic and bunch of other e-com platforms. You will see a strong leg of AR commerce there on the in-app side. And another interesting platform is Niantic's 8th Wall. As Deepa mentioned about the first party database and the world moved towards the ID-less world, more and more marketers are now gunning to curate first party database. And one of the ways to do that is web AR, which is getting driven on top of your packs. Some of the oldest brands in India have got reach more than mobile. Look at Clinic Plus, would have more reach than in Bihar than mobile phones. Right, so your on-pack is a very powerful vehicle. Put web AR on top of it and you will see some amazing renditions out there. Asia doesn't have a volumetric studio capabilities right now at an Asia level. Imagine that comes to India, then look at examples like your Coke bottle. You can have Ranbir Kapoor popping onto Coke bottle and you can have a live interaction with Ranbir Kapoor. That requires a volumetric capture with him. So your celebrities can come alive on the pack. And there's this magical piece of simple technology which is being around for ages, which is quick response codes, QR codes, everyone knows about it. And I think you've leveraged it in a big way, right, Ankit? So just talk us through how you've leveraged QR codes. And Suraj here is a big believer of QR as well. So maybe you can add to it.
I actually got scared when you used some very fancy, what was the term? No, before that, some 8.
Niantic, 8th Wall.
So I thought he's going to ask me something on that.
It's a huge, it's a very, very popular platform. 8th Wall is a company got acquired by Niantic, one of our global partners.
Post this, I need to update myself. But jokes aside, chocolates is a fun category, but it is also very close to Indians for obvious reasons. So what we do is technology becomes an enabler versus the destination. For us, it is important to first pick the occasion, the contextuality, what's the mindset of the consumer, and then participate in it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So, Valentine and Women's Day. Valentine obviously is all about gifting, so we keep it simple. So there is a QR code which allows you to express yourself and you build in tech through it. It's sort of a phygital experience. What we did is you buy a pack, you proclaim your message, the message got displayed on ground, and there's obviously a closing the loop gratification as well. Because Valentine is fun, you want to express. And then, so this is an established occasion for the category. Women's Day was not an occasion for the category. But we thought that there was something intrinsic in a brand name. So I don't know how many of you would know, but like the word her and she goes unnoticed in the brand name Hershey's. Likewise, the achievements, a lot of her and she around us go unnoticed. Yeah. So we said, what other occasion but Women's Day to celebrate it? So we kept it very simple. We had a complete packaging takeover where we celebrated almost 6 sheroes from different walks of life. And we said they don't need to celebrate sheroes who are achievers only. You can celebrate anybody. So I would celebrate Pooja, I'd celebrate Sheena. And that was enabled through a very seamless experience. So there was a QR code on pack. You scan the QR code, you'd go on the portal, you would send a message to a shero and then she would share it. So it's as simple as that. And both meeting different objectives basis the contextuality through a very seamless experience. Similarly, we said it's Christmas, it's fun time, end of the year. We launched the Hersheyverse, where again the intent was just to make people have fun. Obviously, Hersheyverse, if I'm not wrong, currently the number of users are 20 odd million, but expected to be 150 million. So at this point in time, that was more a topical thing, but we're really hoping that...
Just Hersheyverse has got 20 million.
No. Cut that out. In terms of, Metaverse users, from what I know, India, the number is around 20 odd million who've actively engaged in Metaverse, unless I've got my numbers wrong. Is it much more?
Yeah, no, that's not the number.
Okay.
That's Daler Mehndi quoted a number on Kapil Sharma's show. He is no more. I mean, he's there.
No, so for us, Metaverse as a Hersheyverse
just to recap, Metaverse is very, very nascent. There are very minuscule numbers on Metaverse as of now. It's exactly what internet was in 2003. Another 2-3 years we are discussing Metaverse, it's still going to remain nascent. But the infrastructure that supports Metaverse, it's constantly growing. Look at Amazon Prime, Netflix, Sony here, Suraj is working with Sony's Eternal Metaverse, the series of concerts which are coming in, right? Everyone's building for it, but the audience set is very, very limited right now. Yeah, so that's the state of art. So 20 million, I'll come to you.
So yeah, I think that's the, so coming back, as long as you're creating an experience which is contextually relevant to the TG, seamlessly done, and an end objective in mind, tech should be an enabler versus saying, Achha, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And which is where we found QR code to be quite effective, contrary to what one would think. And the kind of participation we get actually runs into thousands and possibly touching a lakh as well.
Absolutely. Here's another guy who's a big believer of QR code.
No, and I would like to get into QR codes, let me just do the fact brief again, right? Please. Yeah, so in terms of Metaverse users, you are right when you say that there are about 21 million users. Just to get the audience up to speed on that, right? There are two sorts of people looking at metaverses. One are marketers and the other is the general gaming audience. If you ask a gamer what is a metaverse, he would say that it's just a multiplayer experience. A multiplayer experience, I've been playing multiplayer games for like 20 years now. Right? I have developed and worked on about 4 or 5 multiplayer games. Those were also metaverses. I could meet a friend inside the space, I could compete with them, I could interact with them and everything. Now, what has happened is people have gotten a lot more freedom to just socialize. The metric is no longer a game. The metric is just living. Because, we saw a pandemic, and then in the pandemic, a lot of people felt very isolated inside boxes, and then these games allowed them to express themselves in the same way they would generally do, right? And that's the metric that you're mentioning when you say that 20 million. Yes, there are 20 million metaverse users in India. It is just that they are not sitting on the metaverses that you guys are looking at, which is, your
You're
Fortnite,
talking about the
Roblox.
gaming worlds like Roblox.
Yes. So consider this, right, that GTA 5, even though it is a brutal game, has substantial amount of players in India. The simple fact is that marketers find that as a difficult or a risky platform to really market themselves. But still, like, I learned most of my stockbroking experience on GTA 5 because it has an entire stock exchange. I have a stock exchange portfolio on it, no risk, right? You can just keep trying. And it's a real stock exchange. There are other players also investing, and the same way that it works in the real world, these fictitious companies have their own, ups and downs that happen inside the space. So a real life experience that I got out of a metaverse, where metaverses itself weren't relevant, right, is what I wish to just tell the audience that, dude, this thing has been there. The thing is that two different sorts of people from two stratas of society are looking at it.
Yeah.
And that's where
kids are totally living on Roblox. Like, you would see tens and millions of people on platforms like Roblox. And my son has created a library on Minecraft. And I ask him why. He says, my friends will come and check out my collection, right? So that's the kind of conversation a 7-year-old is doing. So if you were to see the gaming worlds which are coded on top of this, what do you call those gaming engines like Unreal, you are seeing like tons and tons of destinations where there are already kids who are going and playing games. Yeah, but can you go and sticker that environment and run ads out there? Answer right now is a big no. You got to create immersive brand mascots who would go and play around in this space and connect with those audiences. Like we did Wendy's, right? It was a virtual character which moved in and challenged avid gamers like us and beat us at that, right? So that's the kind of advertising which would be part of the metaverse destination, especially the gaming ones. Now, coming back and question to you, Suraj, because we've been building a lot of these metaverse experiences. How will it all change in 2023? What kind of scale are we looking at? What will be the experience with kudos to 5G computing? How life will change?
So, India in general is a leapfrog economy, right? When you even look at data metrics of QR adoption, we have numbers that are just not making sense to most of the marketers outside of this sandbox. So the same thing is going to happen even, when it comes to 5G adoption. Now, when you talk about this screen sitting in your pocket, right, you're already getting 4K Ultra HD video from Netflix on 4G network. Yeah. So what is the true utility of 5G when we talk about 5G? That's where me and Niraj mostly have our fights, right? The fact that computers in the future are going to be worn on people's heads. They're not going to be sitting inside people's pockets. Because when you wear a computer on your head, which is primarily like a virtual reality headset or an augmented reality headset, that primarily unlocks a lot more potential of consuming data as well as relaying back your expressions or emotions or whatever. Like today I tap a button to, express myself. Tomorrow I'll actually be able to give my thumbs up, and the way I give my thumbs up and the way Niraj does a thumbs up is substantially different. And emojis have, made that into a single silo where you're probably able to just pick the color of your skin. That's the only thing that you're able to customize. But then, when Niraj gives me that high five, there is a different feeling I have, right? And that emotional feeling has to be translated through these digital sandboxes. That's the whole point as to why we are building them. So from that point of view, I think that tier 2, tier 3 has a substantially large adoption. Like we have been in the space of hardware manufacturing. We manufacture a lot of VR headsets. We have seen more headsets being adopted in places like Kohima in Nagaland. Honestly speaking, when I made my first dispatch, I actually drove all the way to Kohima to see who the hell are these people buying these headsets, right? And I was substantially surprised to see that there are extremely highly technically literate people willing to put down the top dollar to try new things because that's what they think makes them cool. But then in Bombay, everybody, has this idea that, oh, US mein dekha hai to main yahan pe karunga.
There are more VR users in Nagaland than in Mumbai.
Yeah, like daily active users. And substantially, like even if you look at my sales numbers, most of my sales numbers come from tier 2, tier 3 audiences than tier 1. Like we have set up over, like today, our organization at least enables about over 1 lakh of students in India, in KV schools across the country, and have used VR headsets as a textbook replacement. The simple fundamental point is when comics were relevant, I used to like reading. And when cartoons came in, my comics book became Raddi. Right? And there is a very thin line, like from the Byju's model itself. Why did they gamify education? Because kids are now addicted to games, and gamification of education now gets that child to get the best of both worlds while saving the same amount of time, right? So I think now is the time in 2023 when VR becomes more when 5G becomes more ubiquitous, that more and more people will be able to adopt to this kind of tech, because I think the only thing that is limiting right now is the network speeds. And this thing will just disrupt that space. And again, coming to pixel streaming allows people to have like, heavy duty computers that cost like 40, 50 lakh rupees inside a smartphone, right? And that kind of horsepower primarily is required for larger organizations to be able to, use the power of 5G. And let's see what 2003 has for us.
Absolutely. So Suraj here mentioned about a very interesting utility of VR, which is how education is getting driven through creative hardwares. There are kids sitting in Nagaland who are actually studying, putting on those VR devices. And the education which you get on VR is sensational, right? I mean, it's more immersive, and you will never be able to forget what you learn through VR devices. Now, let me bring in Sheena here. And she's been quiet for a while because we had like really intense conversation, a really busy panel. Sheena is using some really marquee technology stack, whether it's drone or VR, to engage the first-party database which she has, which is what Deepa mentioned, that it's critical to build first-party database. And once you have that, what do you do with that? And here's a classic use case of a BFSI category, ICICI Lombard, who's used this to perfection, using technology at the heart, but capitalizing on the one PD which you guys are building.
Right. Thank you, Niraj, and thank you for having me here. And I'm hoping the audience is enjoying as much as I have listening to my co-panelists. And before I answer your question, in fact, I'm thinking insurance as a category, right? It's about covering risk. And when she was talking about cement, I was obviously thinking about the property or the house somebody built. And you go about, okay, that's the asset that is getting insured. And you spoke about drone. And here is a drone that's actually doing an inspection to check during flooding whether the roof got flooded or not. Rather than actually, if there was a flood or an earthquake situation, where you had to physically, manually send somebody, a surveyor, to actually inspect the damage or assess the extent of risk covered. Let's take Hershey's as an example, right? Now he's sending chocolates as cargo transit. Maybe he's sending it, to far parts of the country, maybe overseas as well. Now marine transit, cargo transit is again something that we as an insurer would cover as a risk. But what AI ML allows us to do from a data capturing is I'm looking at critical parameters in terms of humidity, in terms of temperature control, in terms of if there has been any exposure, even if there has been any meddling with the cargo, because we have put detectors there, to be able to preempt any kind of theft or damage even before it occurs. And then if it actually occurs, you're able to actually assess again the damage to it. You spoke about Kama Sutra again. I was thinking that, okay, that's sexual health and mental health. We have IL Take Care as, a mobile app where insurance today is actually again capturing biomarkers, genetics, genomes, and how the health stack keeps getting more and more advanced, more and more progressive in terms of capturing a lot of the data. Insurance IRDA has just from January 1st made it mandatory from a KYC standpoint that it'll get linked. Even your insurance policies will go and follow the route of DMAT, the way securities and stocks are, incorporated and stored, which allows the entire ecosystem of data getting captured. And therefore, that entire ecosystem of data being enabled for an insurer or an underwriter or an actuary or a surveyor to actually look at the parameters and the risk profiling of the consumer. Similarly, I could just go on. Even when we use the drones from an inspection lens, we are looking at, say, an agriculture or a crop insurance. You're talking acres and acres of land where it could have been a flooding situation, there could have been a climatic situation that has, erupted or caused a certain damage. Now, if you imagine and visualize in the traditional sense where you had a team of 2 or 3 going to assess acres and acres, different terrains of land. Oh, Bichara is climbing hills and, trying to capture and note down and record or videotape on this thing. It's tons of data. It's very inefficient. Suddenly, drones have allowed you to capture this at a very granular level, actually do an entire heat map and geospatial mapping, and that's how we're able to, from an underwriting perspective, and insurance companies are able to evaluate the risk. Even on VR, right, what we decided to do was, let's take a situation where you have a property. There is an SME who has a factory, who has a business, and you want to be able to safeguard the goods or the premises. So there are 2 scenarios where we use the VR headsets, where we don't want to go physically, whether it's on time, cost, or efficiency metrics. We do a remote scanning where we get a 3D simulation of the entire premise or the factory and actually assess and are able to build a case for insurance and highlight this is the hazardous, sphere. This is where, your fire could leak out. This is where, the gas cylinder, this is where your kitchen is. This is, from the layout perspective. And then you're able to, even when the claim arises, again, you're able to overlay the pictures, whether captured through drone, and overlay that with the pre-damage on factory or the premises. And that's how you're using VR to remotely sit and assess the entire damage and actually underwrite what is the extent of settlement that you need to do. And then we went a step further saying since we're using drones, might as well insure the drones as well. So we went ahead and offered a drone insurance. And then we said, hey, there's all this data that is getting, stored, which is valuable. Let's go ahead and offer insurance to store, cover that risk. And that's how you have cyber risk that's come into play. So all of these actually are, interconnected. Now we spoke about agri, there's climate risk. So therefore, as an insurance company, that's a risk. We're willing to cover climate risk as well. So yeah, those are just some of the
Isn't that
use
fabulous?
cases.
How many of you guys were aware about Lombard doing this, right? Using drone and VR to perfection. This is a fabulous use case.
Hershey's chocolates थोड़ी खा लेना.
I'm one of the fans and loyalists for Hershey, so I'm a convert already.
I was like, when Sheena was talking, Kanupriya was constantly nodding, saying that how do I interfit baat ghar ke into this? Similar audience somewhere.
I think it's...
Take this.
I think it's interesting for me because a lot of the audiences that we talk to haven't really even heard of mobile phone में WhatsApp कैसे करते हैं.
Exactly.
So, but we have a different audience. So as UltraTech, we do B2B marketing and we talk to B2B clients. All the, Ruparel will know this in terms of real estate guys across different cities. And we are trying to work there in terms of giving them experiences of, and what connected with me was risk management. What AI can do, I think, is to give you an environment where you can risk-free try something and cover that risk. So I think that somewhere builds in to say that when the person is building a house, is building it for one time. Once I pour that cement in, it's not going to be replaceable. And that's a risk at the end of the day. Have I done it properly? Is my contractor doing it properly? All those questions are asked. Once a layout is done, how do I de-risk that? And I think that's a great case for this guy to, who can't even visualize a WhatsApp message, to be able to go through, कि मेरा जब घर बन जाएगा, it'll look like this.
Yeah.
Or if it's a sloping slope where I'm making my home, how does that work out? Can I put in geo data in it? And today there are some parts we are doing, but it's the computing is done in a brain, and we don't have enough data sources to make it easy for my field guy to actually help saying that, देखो, आपका ये है, and hence this is what you can do. This is how it visually looks like. I think the future is exciting with 5G tech coming in, what always happens, 3G and 4G will open up for my rural audiences, and that makes it exciting. That's what happened when 3G and 4G happened. So suddenly rural audiences can have better experiences. I think if we can get scale added, I'm signed in.
All right, so guys, we have about 3 minutes. Either we can round up our conversation with a point of view on how tech would evolve, or we can take questions. Questions. Anil is right here, and we have got so many questions.
What role do you think, I mean, there's been a common trend, people are talking about ChatGPT and everything. What role do you think AI or ChatGPT clones, so many of them are coming, can play in this space over the next few years?
You're saying ChatGPT, generative AI, what role would it play?
Yes.
To come? You want to take that, Suraj?
So, the entire objective of AI is to really give humans wings, right? That's what they generally market. So the real reason behind that is there are still a lot of mundane, repetitive jobs. Like consider the fact that, call centers, right? Consider that job as a subset, right? You don't really have a quality life there. You're doing repetitive calls and, it's just happening over and over. And even on that, the human element keeps getting demotivated. Like, you can easily gauge that 9 बजे सुबह जो call किया, से लेके 4 बजे दोपहर में जो वो call कर रहा है, उसमें उसकी enthusiasm नीरज जितनी नहीं बचेगी, right? So that, and it takes a lot for a human being to, sit on that. And there are people I know who are doing 800, 900 calls, yeah? It's the same script, nothing changes. And on top of that, there is no context. Like the person is just talking like a robot, a human talking like a robot. Here a robot will be able to talk like a human, right? And it will be able to do that at a pace that you can't, your brains can't comprehend. And I think that same logic now comes from a tutoring point of view, a counseling point of view, a sales point of view, a marketing point of view, where a lot of these mundane tasks and mundane jobs would get replaced by AI. And people will be just sitting there supervising these things so that, a little bit of at least human element is added to it, right? Even though it's doing a pretty phenomenal job just being a free open source system right now.
As we run this talk show, my clone is actually running a presentation for a client and my team is managing it. So seriously, mundane task, let them do it. We'll do interesting work. Questions?
Yeah. So I come from a education and career counseling kind of a field, and I talk to a lot of parents whose children are in the 13, 14, 15, 16 age group. And so there is this constant dilemma that is there, that on one hand, there is this school of thought that says that let children be in touch more with with the physical interactions and social skills and emotional skills and play and art, etc., and keep them away from gadgets. And on the other hand, there's such a lot of things like gaming and metaverses entering into mainstream careers, and applications of education. I mean, they have being applied in education for disseminating education. So any thoughts on that? Because I see a lot of confusion around in parents and educators about should we encourage technology usage, should we dissuade, or what to do, and then it just as it is, So any thoughts on this?
Ankit will take that. He deals with that TG. And Pooja.
It's a perspective, and we all can join. I think it has to be best of both worlds, and I would use the word balance. So taking technology away from the kids is not going to happen. But I think drawing the right balance, allowing them to have the physical as well as digital experience, while obviously there are certain guardrails, because most brands, when they participate,
time, like we give our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Time. And when most brands participate, there are clear guardrails which we maintain, because we are also conscious about what the kid is exposed to. So it is here to stay, and it should be used effectively. That's my perspective, and use it in a way that it enables the child, while also giving him or her that relaxation or that free space.
Like, just to add to that, right? Consider a field like architecture. There was a time when CAD models were made the size of this room, right? Today it's been digitized. So I don't think any person can become an architect, like at least a mediocre one, right? The specialized ones will pay more attention to detail, but it does not restrict a Niraj or a Suraj to try, right? Try a simulated model to see if I am liking it or something like that. Previously, it would have taken the same child too much pain to convince themselves to sit and try and draw something on a piece of paper. That's one point. The second point was, I actually graduated from a design school, right? And I don't know how to draw. And I was top of the class. I still don't know how to draw. Most of the people in my classroom were people who could draw really, really well. And I was just like, no man, I'm good at a mouse and a keyboard and I can really kick ass with that. And I've done pretty fairly a good job. So and today when I go and do some consulting for a logo design, I don't need to sit on a piece of tissue paper or a piece of paper and start sketching. I can directly start prototyping on a computer. And in the end of the day, the final product that I'm going to submit to my client is going to be a digital file and not a physical copy of anything, right?
What are my initials as well?
Yeah. Yeah, you're digitally signing documents as well today, right? Your signature mismatch ka problem to solve ho gaya, like from that point of view.
But if you are asking more from education point of view, the education which you get through VR, I'm repeating, it's sensational. The student will never be able to forget what he's learning. And what we have learned, the way we have learned, those copybook style, it is useless now. I would say VR education is the way to go for really sharper connect. And the way they are coaching, art students aate hain na? Art students aate hain, government is funding those headgears. They come and there is a VR day where they come and we are not saying it's always on, पूरी की पूरी पढ़ाई उस पे हो रही है. But imagine अगर आपको हार्ट खोल के दिखाना है, pulmonary vein, आप बुक में पढ़ रहे हो, ये आपके सामने निकल कर आएगी, हार्ट बाहर आएगा. You will never forget it. That is what the power is.
Yeah, so a data point for you, especially in the terms of education, right? So the Nagaland prospect again, there was a KV school about 6 kilometers away which had not gotten into this program, and there was a KV school which already had gotten into the program. What we noticed was there was a 30% growth rate in terms of the academic score that the average child had in this school versus that school for the same curriculum that was taught, one in VR and one on a blackboard. So 30% is a substantial amount for a tier 3 audience to, claim, especially in a bare vernacular medium school. So I hardly, ye ho gaya to uske aage I can't, think that I still have to keep going back to the past. I need to now focus to the future. So the objective is just to convince these parents that ab hona tha wo ho gaya. Like you can't, go back to it.
I'm actually a big believer on camera focused marketing. Have you seen AR EduTech? Google Lens and how they are driving education. Have you ever experienced it? It's free for all. It is so mind-blowing. You will never forget it, what you learn. Google is investing on it in a big way. So I think this needs to be, questions?
Just one more. So Nike had raised close to 1,500 crores from the NFT sales. Do you think brands can look at this as a monetizable thing in the future in India also, or is it going to be more of an engagement exercise?
The NFT lady on the panel. But yeah, I don't think NFT, making money the NFT way is the way to go. You got to look for the core utility, considering the current regulations.
Yeah, I think some iconic brands like Nike, depending on the theme they do, of course, you can make money out of it. But brands like us are really using it more to drive engagement and interaction, and also ride with the existing trend. But having said that, yes, I think maybe luxury brands, I have seen not only Nike, but even Chanel, Gucci, they have really made a lot of money, minting this. And like we say, I think the future is endless and there's a lot of potential. So I'm sure NFTs will come back. So even we, for example, are launching our Karma Boss. With a bot, not as exciting as Niraj, but just somewhere close. And one of the things will be an NFT gallery, because we know there are a huge number of people in India who are engaging with NFT, want to unleash their creativity, and technology is now democratizing that. So I think eventually, yes, why not? It could be a great way for people to be famous through that art, and that could be sellable. Great brands, by riding into a theme, can come up with concepts which, could help generate money. So a number of brands from Chanel, Gucci and all, and Nike, using themes, have been able to really, commercialize this very well.
Okay, Niraj, I have a question.
Social tokens is way to go. Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I'll just add one thing to that. Yeah. I honestly don't think brands are going to look at NFT to raise money.
Yeah.
They're going to do it for creating brand love and engagement.
Yes.
Money is a side outcome, And if there is something which is very iconic, like Pooja mentioned, then of course those brands will think. But I don't think any marketer is going to say, you know, now NFT is a future revenue stream, so let me look at it. They are going to want to form a very strong connect with their customers and therefore give their fan base or the creme de la creme of their customers something unique which they can always have. So it's a part of digital participation and extending your brand love rather than a monetary stream.
Okay. Anil Banwari here. You know, we are talking about innovation lab kind of experiments right now. I call them experiments. I don't call them mass adoption. So are there any marketing problems which are common as garden, which need solutions in terms of technology which we haven't addressed? These are I call them lab experiments, what you're doing.
No, just come again on the,
Are there any marketing problems?
Yeah.
Which are common as problems, common as garden, you face them every day, but for which we still haven't found technological solutions.
Oh, okay.
So it could be a simple thing like we are talking about measurement. This morning they were talking about measurement.
Yeah.
Is there any problem which hasn't found a solution which a technology company can find a solution for? It could be data gathering.
The first knee-jerk reaction is this serving ads on the OEM inventory. Yeah, really good inventory, but you cannot serve on their platforms. Like glance of the world. Right, measurement becomes a
that's on the promotion side. That's on the communication promotion side.
I just want to, so what, as UltraTech, I think we are one of the largest spenders in the country today, both on TV, digital and other media, radio and digital radio, etc. The big challenge that is there is if I park for one moment efficiencies, etc. Digital by definition is measurable. How do I do that to an analog platform? And my consumer today is omni-channel and multiverse. How does technology help in stitching that up? From a marketer's viewpoint, one is the experiences that we create and the potential products that we can bring out and help our consumers with. The other is the work that we do to enable the ROI for my organization. I think from the back-end work, one is this, in terms of getting some amount of overlap and not pissing off my consumer, if I can say that, by huge there's huge amount of inventory out there. There's advertising pouring through my nose, even on WhatsApp these days. So I think, and brands don't want to do that. I think we want to put it out there for people who are relevant. Technology needs to find a way to do that. That's one point.
Any other problems?
Yeah, in fact, that's a great question. I think one opportunity area is research, consumer research. So, of course, there's been huge evolution, but I think that giant leap in terms of always-on research, knowing what the consumer wants, pre-post, is a huge opportunity which currently is not enabled by tech as to the extent which one would want. And
Anyone
especially,
so let me just add to it. For a lot of my clients, when we have to beta test a product. Now imagine when you are creating an application for rural India, वो लोग ऐसे ऊपर नहीं करते हैं, ऐसे करते हैं, right? And they don't know 50 notes दिखानी पड़ती है application के अंदर. These are learnings. When you go and speak to them, then you understand कि उनके लिए app कैसे बनानी है. And personally, if you ask me, technology and creativity would have a solve for any marketing problem. At least I think that way as a emerging tech practice lead. You've got to be positive in that approach. One of the brand gave me a task to target mini truck owners who are coming and parking their vehicles outside Sabji Mandi location in 150 locations. No one approached that. We cracked it through telco intelligence. 2 बार आने वाला आदमी, हमने ज़्यादा पूछा उनको information, खाली mini trucker नहीं चलेगा. Someone who is coming to Sabji Mandi location 2 times. Someone who has a feature phone, जो internet use नहीं करता, जो regional languages में messages exchange करता है, 2 बार आता है. पहली बार आया मतलब सब्जी लेने आया होगा. 2 बार आता है मतलब potentially mini trucker हो सकता है. उसके ऊपर हम लोगों ने campaign चलाया. Engine की आवाज़ में call भेजा, blah blah. So I'm saying हर चीज़ का solution है. Is what I personally feel.
Yeah, Pooja, any area in your space where if you don't have, forget it.
Her category is like super spiced up. Solution is solution.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
what did you say, Niraj?
Good category, spiced up, so much you can do.
Right.
You
I mean,
know,
she
you're
spends 30
limited in
minutes
what
with
you
me,
can
I give her 5
showcase
ideas.
because
Yeah.
sex is a bad word in India, yet it's the most searched word in India.
So I think your question is, what is technology not able to solve for marketing, right? Or what?
What it hasn't solved and it can solve.
So I think I would just say, we can use our imagination. I feel tech can solve tomorrow what we can't imagine today, right? So your question, I was thinking about, was that Blood Droplet, that film, which didn't happen. She tried to fool everyone. I forgot the name of that.
What was that?
She's in jail. She just went behind bars recently.
Sorry? Yeah,
She went behind bars.
So you know what I'm talking about, right? So I think it's about imagination. So to give you an example, it is about how, we used to reach people through earlier television. And now I think technology is really enabling us to talk one-on-one. So how do I really understand what you're saying, what you really need, and how do I break those barriers, to come and, to help solve what you're really looking for. So I think tomorrow, to me, as we were talking, the goalpost goes on changing. So if we visualize what we really want to solve, I think people like Niraj and the team will put together a roadmap on, aiming to solve it. So I think it still goes to human problems. So like, for example, this is all very commercial, but, the way technology, like we spoke about, is now democratizing education. So you can look at something good, you can look at something bad. It's about how you use it to really drive, which is really important in India, the sense of equality and democratization. So I think for me, that is the biggest role of technology, breaking barriers. And as I have progressed in the marketing world or also progressed in life, become older actually, I've seen the way technology has democratized.
You look like you're 16. You're not growing older.
I'm forgetting I'm in the panel, I'm thinking solutions, Like, use generative AI to create a sex education platform and power it.
So that's what we are doing. So we're reinventing Kama Sutra, we call it the Kama verse. And the beauty, everywhere what we are saying, people are talking about tier 2, tier 3. Metro tier 1 is gone, whereas earlier we were only talking about metro and tier 1.
Yeah.
So I love the way technology actually has really got reach, it's got scale, it's made everything so accessible. We know there are 1 billion geophones, roaming around pretty soon. And I went for another talk where they told me today people are more video literate than they're literate. And we just step out of our buildings and we see the BMC cleaners actually using their video phones while they're cleaning. So I think technology is an amazing democratization tool, and it's really exciting to see what unveils tomorrow. So maybe even that droplet of blood can diagnose all our diseases very soon.
Yep. Sheena, you want to add to it?
actually I could think of quite a few problems.
I'd love to hear all the problems.
So starting, and I'm talking as a marketer, and I'm sure a lot of my panels and members here could think of it. And not to say that we don't have the solutions today. It's some time away, but it's there. For instance, if I've released an ad as a brand in print, as simple as me, forget readership, right? Forget the number of households. If I really want to be able to, at a very granular level, target how many people actually read my ad. Yes, I could put a QR code and get the person to interact and get him to a landing page or whatever. But that level of accuracy, I don't have. The same thing is there in certain inherent media limitations. Same thing, for instance, for an outdoor. I'm spending a bomb month on month on some key outdoor.
You're investing, not spending. Please.
Yes, investing month on month, okay, a bomb depending on, where the hoarding is, right? And yet, what I'm getting is a footfall, and I'm getting an estimation, and it's an extrapolation. Yahan se itna traffic ja raha hai, therefore, so many eyeballs it is getting.
So efficacy is what you're looking for.
I'm looking at accuracy in terms of measurement, in terms of the eyeballs. Technically, if you had, just like on digital, you're able to very granularly measure. You can't do that with a lot of other traditional media. Two, today, in spite all of these years, okay, we don't have a single technologically available solution that gives a very accurate attribution model. As a marketer, you have various channel points. You've got outdoor, you've got exhibition, you've got print, you've got radio, you've got your branches, you've got your call center. There is no, tool available to a marketer saying this is the accurate attribution model in terms of leads or in terms of revenue contribution. Fourth, as consumers are getting more and more digital, right? Somebody like me is actually a cord cutter. And it's a dichotomy, and it's a paradox because as a marketer, I want to consume ads and messages. But when I'm consuming content, I'm very clear, I want it on demand and I want it non-intrusive. So I've chosen, a YouTube which is on premium, sans any ads. I try and stay close to office, or even if I'm, traveling, I'm on the iPod or on my mail, so I'm not viewing outdoor. I've stopped going to theater, I'm only on Netflix. I don't have cable for the last 8 years. I'm only on Amazon and Netflix and OTT content. How does anybody target me? I'm not reading newspapers, I'm consuming news which is coming on InShots, right? So as cord cutters, it's a very, minute community, niche community, but this community is going to increase because this community demands on-demand content. So I could go on, that there are a lot of such...
Sit with you separately. Go on, please. I'm willing to absorb.
No, but I think in the...
I would say this is a wrap.
Yeah.
Media Investment Summit.
Yeah.
This was a super engaging conversation. I could again respond to this with an attribution model which is in the pipeline. We don't want to do that because this is not an attribution panel conversation. But we had a rich conversation, like really it got extended, and I can see all of you all who walked in are still with us, which is amazing.
We are awake.
It's like a mic drop moment when Niraj dropped the mic, he's like, but we are going to still go ahead. Yeah. One final question.
Sure.
I mean, you guys can be seated if you feel like.
I'm ex-GroupM, so Niraj knows me. I'm currently an MX player and would really want to understand what emerging technologies do you think will be the best fit for OTT players? I know, hardly anyone is from OTT. Niraj, maybe you're the best person to answer that, so yeah.
So MXP?
Yeah, MXP. So what emerging technologies will be best fit for OTT from consumer experience perspective and from revenue perspective, since I'm from sales strategy team, so.
I would say, so there needs to be a constant innovation in the OTT space as well. And MXP, I would rank it right there because we did our first interactive OTT campaign on Axe with MXP, where the user gets to decide.
The right-click one, no?
Right-click one, yes. So the user gets to decide which way is the story going. The girl is proposing it to you. You will decide, the user will decide whether you say yes or no, and the story would move in that direction, right? Netflix, Bandersnatch, similar, we replicated here. So I think there is a room for constantly innovating. The insight for that was Amazon Fire Stick remote in COVID times. People were spending 3 hours on the Fire Stick remote. And that's when we thought there was a need to use that insight and create a solution on interactive OTT. Anyone wants to add to it? I think it needs to be constantly innovated is what I personally feel.
It seems like half the panel is sitting, half is standing. Would like to. Please go ahead.
So, I think passive content is already almost dead, right? Meaning the largest social media platform is selling you 15-second shots. So, OTT is already on long format. So, what you need to only focus on is not make it passive, meaning make it interactive. Yes, we have seen use cases like these, and possibly that's primarily how content in long format will evolve. That is that the audience wants to participate rather than not, because we already have, for example, I used to watch, when I was living as a bachelor in China, I used to watch 20-25 minute videos to learn how to make a sabji. Today I watch it in 15 seconds and I know how to make it. 25 minutes of time versus 15 seconds. Yeah, other than that, of course, immersion has its own metrics, but then when you talk about specifically OTT content, I think interaction is the first step that you need to take and make it more active than passive, which is just sitting and watching a television. That's the only 10 cents I wanted to add.